NASCAR heads to the heartland. Get your DFS lineups and betting cards set for Gateway with our help here tonight on the Backroad.
It's a non-points race, but it is a short race. Checker flag. That's all this race is.
Gateway on the stage.
Happy Thursday, everyone. This is the Backroad. It's In Between Media's Fantasy NASCAR and NASCAR betting show. Tonight, we've got the dynamic duo, myself, Elliot Hicks, and the In Between Media founder, Seth Woolcock. Seth, this is going to be a fun one tonight. I know usually we do have a third person, but I think we got this one covered for tonight for Gateway, St. Louis, Worldwide Technology Raceway, whatever the hell we're going to call it. We're rolling there with the Cup Series.
Yeah, we're going Midwest, baby, and I'm happy to be here with you tonight, Elliot. It really feels like the start of summer here, Memorial Day in the Rearview, as well as the Coca-Cola 600. And it feels like that point where the NASCAR season is switching over to a different time. We're going to have to look through it a little bit different of a lens tonight, as well with Gateway being a newer track on the circuit. So, man, we've had a really good couple weeks here run with the betting cards, with the DFS lineups. So I hope we can bring some more energy, some more fun, and some more winning lineups to everyone tonight.
Certainly feels like summer, even up here in Pennsylvania. Really need a cold beverage just as usual to get us through to take a look back in the rear view.
Yes, sir.
So we had to wait until Monday, of course, with the race getting pushed back, and had a big, long day of racing with the Cup and Xfinity race split between the Cup Series, this series' longest race. Wild day of racing for sure. Ryan Blaney breaks his points race winless streak, gets the victory at the Coke 600. And it was a long race at times, maybe a bit of a snoozer, but at the end of the day, good finish, good race, exactly what we were looking for at Charlotte, I think.
Yeah, first shout out Ryan Blaney. He came through in the end. No bullshit caution, no ticky-tack penalty. He got the job done. Congrats to him, the number 12 team. Like, you could see the emotion on number 12's face, and it was really cool to see. So I'm excited about that. And, man, Ford came through huge for us. We were plus 525 on him. And that's one of those examples, like sometimes a book just leaves something hanging out there. There's only 3 manufacturers in this sport. I know Ford was running terribly, but everything lined up for him last week. So I was glad to be on that. That honestly saved our week, the plus 525. So excited about that. Cool to have on a Monday, honestly, as well. Like the race just felt, it always feels big. And I love having it that Sunday night as well. But having it on Monday felt a little bit different. The stage was completely theirs. There was no other sports on really at that time. So it was really, really cool to see. And Elliot, we learned the trials and the tribulations. I was texting you all day of betting on Martin Truex Jr. The guy is so frustrating with the pit crew that they can't get their shit together. He would lose spots. Finally, he gained a couple spots at the end. And that number 1 pit stall, huge for William Byron. I can't get Byron right this season, though. I haven't been on him anytime he does good, and every time he shits the bed, I'm not on 24, and it doesn't sound like you are either for the most part.
Yeah, Byron is just tough. Hendrick can be dominant, and Hendrick can just kind of be boneheaded at sometimes too. Having the race on Monday for Memorial Day, it was fun, gave me something to do. It was fun to have that bit of Xfinity in the morning and at night also. But I love night race, and I love the Saturday night, Sunday night race, and we already are down to so little of that. And losing the Coke 600 on a Sunday night as the final third of the trifecta of the greatest day in motorsports was kind of a letdown, but, the rain's going to happen. You really can't avoid it. My takeaway from the race, or you have something else you want to say, Seth?
Well, I was just going to say, shout out Denny and Chase for giving us a little bit of a show as well. That was hilarious. I think it's all fun and games. Like, it's good for the sport. I love it.
It is good for the sport. Even having the most popular driver suspended, there is still a positive way to look at it this week. And we'll get to that, of course, in the Horizon Forecast, tire tiers, that sort of thing. The one takeaway toward the back of the field, we talked a lot last week about Jimmy Johnson. He'd had bad luck at Daytona. He'd had bad luck at COTA, not even making it around a full lap. And Legacy Motor Club had more bad luck. Jimmy Johnson spins. Apparently, both of the Legacy cars run into his radiator or something. or they run into some debris, cut holes in their radiator. I don't really know what happened. I was confident in Jimmy as a driver. I was not confident in Legacy's equipment. And I said, stay away from him, be cautious with him. And my dumbass bet him anyway, only in a group bet, though. I bet him to win Group G or whatever it was, one of those back of the field group bets, and even still lost on that one. So I take the win for the pride, but I took the financial loss for a couple of bucks on Jimmy Johnson there.
Yeah, that was a tough one, man. I was staring at him all week long, a plus 500 for a top 10. I really wanted to ride it. I ended up not, and I was fortunate, but yeah, Legacy just been trash. I mean, I saw a stat today, like Noah Gragson last 6 races. I think his average is like plus 31 finish. It's been dog shit. They've been dog shit all year long. A couple fun things in that race, I will say, though. We were riding some of those long shot tickets on those Fords, Almirola, and also an 18-1 on Harrison Burton for a top 10. Those were fun as hell to ride, man. They came back through. They were up in the race late. They didn't come to fruition, but like in a race, a long race like that, I think I'll always take a long shot or two because it just makes it a bit more interesting. Hopefully you don't get Jimmy Johnson like you did, and you know they're out in the early race or early laps of the race. Hopefully you end up kind of with a Harrison Burton that's fun, doesn't hit, but it is what it is, you know.
Yeah, those long shots definitely are fun, and I think their luck will come, maybe even perhaps this week at St. Louis as we take a look ahead in the horizon forecast.
Hey, Michael, it was only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
Well, we did get the rain in Charlotte. We could use some rain here where I'm at in Pittsburgh. And as far as I know, no rain forecast for St. Louis, but I didn't really look. So I'm just talking out of my ass and hoping I'm right here. But anyway, whether or not they are going to race in St. Louis at Worldwide Technology Raceway, it's the second cup race here, second for the next gen. Joey Logano won here last season. It is viewed as a big, shorter, flat track, defined as a 1.25 mile track compared to a mile or less. So shortish, flattish, not quite a short track. Where does this fit in, Seth? What else are we looking at here to compare WWT Raceway to?
Yeah, I think you broke it down really well there. This is one of those tracks that it is unique because it reminds us of some of these other tracks that we've known to come and love, Phoenix, Richmond, the shorter flats. But it is a little bit bigger, but it's not a mile and a half either. So it is unique in that aspect. To look at it here, we can compare it to Phoenix of this year and last year, Richmond of this year and last year. Obviously, we're going to look back at Gateway, what we learned in 2022 on the first running of it. And New Hampshire as well it is very, very similar. So in this sport, we have these guys like Kevin Harvick, Eric Almirola, who are better at shorter flat tracks. So that's something we have to consider tonight. We can't put all our chips into that driving style, but there are these guys who they show up at these tracks no matter where it is. So something to consider with that. Outside of that here, Elliot, like I am very intrigued to watch practice and qualifying. It is tough to handicap a race when you only have 1 year of data. And to be honest, it's almost a little more tough than like North Wilkesboro was for me because we had nothing to go off there. So it was like you could really throw some shit at the wall. Now you have like everything that a lot of things that happened last year at this Gateway track contradict everything that has happened at these shorter flats this season. So it's a lot of back and forth there, but we are going to be looking at Phoenix, Richmond, Gateway, and New Hampshire in a little bit and weighing recent performance, man. That's something we have to keep in mind. Because, like, we've seen these guys get on summer slumps or get on summer heaters. There are some cars you just want a part of because how fast they're running. And I think we could go through a list of those right now. And there's the same list of the ones that I don't want to touch with a 10-foot pool.
Yeah, that's honestly the biggest thing is recent performance. And you made a good point there. With North Wilkesboro, we had nothing except for iRacing on that track since the 90s. Of course, many changes since then. With this, we have a little bit of data, but almost an infuriating amount of data. We got one race. We got only a couple of tracks that are similar. It's like you're giving me a little something to work off of, but you want more. So the practice and qualifying, this is definitely going to be one of those weeks where I'm sure the markets will change a little bit. Our opinions of drivers will change depending on how they ran in practice and how they end up qualifying. And that's pretty early in the morning there. I see about 9 a.m. Eastern for 9:45 a.m. Eastern for the qualifying and practice, and compared to a 2:30 p.m. green flag. So maybe a little cooler in the morning. I'm not quite sure if it's going to be quite as hot that early in the morning as it will be for race time. So
Yeah.
it's even more infuriating, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that's the thing, and usually I'm about trying to beat the books, and that's what we do here on Thursdays. Is we try to, maybe it's not always predicting who's going to win the race. While we do that, we at the same time we're trying to predict where the market's going to move, and this is one where it's going to move a lot based on what we see in qualifying and practicing. But you made a good point. Track temperatures are going to be a lot different this week from that 9:30 time in the morning to when we go green here at 2:30 here on Sunday. So something to keep in mind there for sure, Elliot. I think it's a little bit of back and forth. I will weigh it. I will have some post P's and Q's bets that we'll put out on the card as well. But for the most part, got to be paying attention all weekend long. This is one. It's an interesting race, man. Honestly, this is one of the harder ones to handicap this season for me, but I'm excited to see what it brings nonetheless.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It should be a fun one. Let's get a little more specific with the tire tiers now. Alrighty, so a reminder or a explanation if it's your first time here. We base our tire tiers on a tier maker here off of the DraftKings salaries as well as the Fantrax average points and salaries there. For this week, Kyle Larson, William Byron, the heavy favorites, 11,300 and 11,000 respectively, with Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., and Ryan Blaney all featuring prices above 10K on DK. That's a little steep. I don't remember the last time I saw the favorite had with a price of 11.3, Seth.
Yeah, we're getting up there. This is that time in the season. It's the same thing with the books, though. As the books cut the numbers down, DraftKings over here on DFS side, they bump it up. So, yeah, we got a lot of people plus 10 this week. Like Ryan Blaney hasn't been in the 10K range. I've been riding him a lot in DFS because he's been so affordable. Well, not so much here at Gateway. They know something.
Yeah, I mean, getting that monkey off his back, breaking the winless streak, you never know if he goes on a hot run here. All right, Seth, usually you're the one who goes third. I think I'm going to defer the first pick to you since who knows next time you'll get it.
Yeah, shout out here to Didi in the chat. What's up, Didi? Hope you're having a great Thursday. Thanks for making us a part of it tonight. All right, so I'm going to go with the guy who's just the safest play every single week. He's affordable, and he's a guy I came into this season fading, and I've loved playing him this last month and a half. We've been on a heater with him. It's Martin Truex Jr., averaging over 45 DraftKings points per game, only coming in at 10.3. That's less than Denny, Bell, Byron, and Larson. I'm going to talk a little bit more about him because I'm going to continue to ride him on the betting side as well. But the dude's been brilliant, Elliot. He has just been absolutely brilliant these last couple of months. And I am increasingly excited to see what he can do on Sunday. This guy who has a track record at New Hampshire, he's been good at Phoenix at times. Like, I'll get more into the specifics later, but I do love MTJ this week. He's a no-brainer anchor driver for me once again here.
Yeah, I don't mind him at that price, which is surprising because normally 10.3 is your top driver price at some of these races. But yeah, MTJ on a bit of hot streak. I am going to roll with William Byron here to start off. I mean, it's a toss-up between Larson and Byron. I do think the books overall are a little too high on both the 24 and the 5.
Agreed.
Talk more about that later. But they're high on them because they're very likely to run up front. They've been the two best Hendrick cars. They've been the two drivers who have actually been in the seat all season for Hendrick, which helps.
Yeah.
So, Byron and Larson, they're both going to run well. I'll leave Larson on the board in case you want to talk a little more about him. But, I mean, I'm sure he's going to end up in the A's too. That these guys, are they going to win the race? Of course, they're the favorites. Either way, they're going to have good runs. They're probably going to lead a lot of laps, and they're going to be worth picking in the A tier.
Yeah, I'm with you there, man. Nothing wrong with William Byron. We're going to put Larson up here because obviously he deserves to be in this tier. Guy has been a clinic, especially on the shorter tracks this season. And the one thing about Larson that I think is really great is wherever he starts, he's going to get move-up differential. That is what you want here in DraftKings. He's averaging over 40 points per game. So Larson belongs here. We have no Rod on the show. Rod's out. He's doing some Army stuff this week. Not his turn on the show anyways this week. However, can we get some Kevin Harvick love up here? You throw out the Busch Light corn can wrap on him. Give me a little thoughts on Kevin Harvick here. He is the short flat king, Elliot.
Yeah, he's definitely the king here. So another thing I'll mention real quick, though, for the short flat total speed ranking this year, of course, that's only Phoenix and Richmond. Byron was first in total speed ranking at Phoenix and Richmond. Larson is second with a 2.5 average speed rank.
Yes.
Harvick fourth with a fourth place average speed rank. You really can't get much better with this A tier. Kevin Harvick is still an enigma because Stewart-Haas Racing has been bad in recent weeks. Chase Briscoe is a guy I'll talk a little bit more about later. He's a guy that's going to have to win. And basically the other two cars are running badly enough. They're going to have to win to get in the playoffs too at this point. But Kevin Harvick, even though it's kind of a down year for Ford in some respects, it's definitely down for Stewart-Haas Racing. Harvick is coming out and still putting together one of the more consistent runs that we've seen from him in his career in his last season, which is pretty impressive. You definitely don't get that with some of these guys at the tail end of their career. We didn't see it with my guy Dale Earnhardt Jr., that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you there, man. Harvick is just bringing something different to this car, and this is one of his shots to win, and I think he knows that. The one thing you're kind of going up against here is that he was not very good here last year. He was running 13th, and he blew that brake rotor, ended up crashing out here kind of early on in that race. But he was great at Richmond, top 5 at Richmond, top 5 at New Hampshire, and he was a lick away from winning Phoenix. He should have. We are on that outright at Phoenix. 14 laps to go, caution comes out, ends up with a top 5. But wrong decisions made by the crew and everything that happened on pit road. So I love Kevin Harvick this week. Who else do you have in this A tier, Elliot?
I think I'm going to throw another Gibbs car up here. Let's put Denny Hamlin up in tier A. You know, he's definitely on a mission. Before the race was even over and he was wrecked out, he pulled out that SMT data to say, hey, this is BS. What Chase did to me to ruin my good run should be worthy of a suspension. They ended up getting it. Of course, if you don't know who's already in the 9 car this week, it is Corey LaJoie moving over from the 7. Carson Hocevar making his Cup debut in that 7 car. Of course, neither are worthy of tier A. Just wanted to preface with that as their important moves this week with that Chase Elliott suspension. But going back to Denny Hamlin, 5th in total speed ranking at these tracks this year, 7th place in both of them, which actually, that's funny that it ends up being 5th. Some guys with some better runs and some poor runs there. But in any case, the Gibbs cars are going to run well here. I think Toyota is definitely one to watch this week, and Denny Hamlin going to be a man on a mission getting back to victory lane.
I like it, man. Yeah, Denny is someone I thought long and hard about today. Ended up pivoting away from him, but he was in strong consideration for me. I'm going to go with the number 22 car, Joey Logano. This is the former winner of this race. I don't expect him to win. I expect him to be a top 10 car, though. Man, Joey Logano, he is a hard one to get under in DraftKings this week, and the price is reflecting it now here, Elliot. Down to 9,400, we finally have seen the swap where Ryan Blaney is coming in almost a grand heavier, kind of in a different tier now. But it wasn't that long ago. The Logano is still the only Ford that has won this season. I think he's going to show some speed here. I like Ford a lot this weekend in general. I'm looking for another. I would love another 500 plus 500 to be hung out on there. How about it, Elliot? But yeah, I'll go with Logano here at 9,400. Give me a little relief and a little bit of a leverage option as well.
Yeah, I'll keep with the Penske option here. I'm going to put Blaney in tier B because I think that even though he got that win at the 600, this is a vaguely similar track, but not quite. I think that he's immediately jumped back to being overvalued just because of one good performance. We've seen a lot of seasons with a lot of drivers where you have 1 or 2 good performances and then you run consistently to how you run the rest of the year. And with Blaney, of course, he's had his share of bad luck. He's a talented driver. Wouldn't surprise me if he goes out there and runs well. I think it's too high of a price too soon. I think he's worthy of B this week, although the Fords have been well. Penske has run well here. They won the race last year. But I still think he's, A- to B+ for me this week.
Ryan Blaney, to me, I think could maybe win this race. All the data leads me to thinking he could win this race. However, at the same time, Elliot, I 100% agree with you. 10-1 is a really expensive price to pay for a guy who hasn't been super consistent this season.
If he was at Logano's price, he'd be a tier A, but he's just too expensive in DK.
I'm going to talk a little bit more about him later. 4th here last season, though, at Gateway. I think that's what gives that price tag a little bit more heftiness coming into it. 2nd in total speed ranking, green flag speed, and late run speed. So just a great car overall last season here. He found something. I always kind of want to fade people coming off wins a little bit. He's very hard for me. And at 10-1, I am paying for Truex before Blaney. If I can somehow squeeze a Blaney and a Truex, 2 top-tier drivers in my lineup, I'm fine with it. But it is really hard to pay 10-1 for Ryan Blaney when he's been an $8,000, $9,000 driver. So tough one there. Elliot, I guess I'm going to go to the well here. Oh, all right. Bubba Wallace, man, 8,400. I don't think we can talk any highlier of about any driver than Bubba Wallace, man. He has been brilliant these last 4 or 5 weeks. He's on a top 5 streak for 3 straight races that are point races. So flowers are due to him. We know he's good at the shorter mid-range tracks, those mile and a halves, Kansas and what have it. But I think he can get it done here as well. Bubba Wallace, 8,400. I'll have him in a couple lineups. Finally getting a pretty reasonable price on him once again.
Yeah, this is one where the recent performance outweighs the stats, I would say. With the total speed ranking with Phoenix and Richmond this year, he's 16th with a 14.5 average speed ranking. But that was before 23XI's hot streak that's come around the last couple of weeks. So I definitely don't mind putting Bubba in Tier B at that price. Another guy that I think is maybe a bit overvalued, but he's run well enough to justify being an A-, B+ kind of guy is Christopher Bell. He's at 10,700 this week, but he does have the third best average speed ranking at these tracks. I know, Seth, you're looking a lot toward Gateway last year. I think that this year, sort of what have you done for me lately stuff is more so what I'm leaning on. I think Bell is worthy of a play here at that price, though. Not my favorite play of the week.
Yeah, Chris Bell, I can't get him right lately either. I'm going to avoid him this week at that price tag. Finished 9th here last season, but did have some overall speed as well. So, yeah, Chris Bell, don't mind it. Elliot, I think we double dip here, man. I think we get 2 out of the way that we really, really like this week, and it's going to start out with Brad Keselowski in that 6 car. Man has been on a mission. He's going to get it done here eventually. Just some bad luck. Like, that's the issue why I can't bet Brad a lot, just because we've seen, like, last week, top 10 car. Where did he finish? Like, was it even a top 20 for him at the end of that?
I will take a look while you continue to talk about RFK, who we're pretty high on this week.
Yeah, 8th and 9th speed ranking here at Phoenix and Richmond are 2 comp tracks this week as well. So he's been fast at both of those tracks. I think he can get it done. I also like his teammate Chris Buescher, man. Chris Buescher on an absolute clinic. 4 out of his last 5 races coming into this, he's in the top 10. And you're getting a bit of relief for Chris Buescher as well, down at 7,500, a guy averaging over 31 DraftKings points. I'm going to talk more about him, but this track really fits what Buescher wants to do. And Elliot, I just believe in RFK right now. I really do. That's like the one story. As disappointing as Legacy Motorsports has been, RFK has been great.
Keselowski ended up 19th last week, but he definitely had a better car than 19th. Yeah. This week is the RFK love fest, I think, on the show in terms of teams we're going to talk about the most. I'm really high on these guys. All the numbers point to it, the recent performance as well as the speed ranking. Keselowski number 7 in the series and Buescher number 12 in the series at those 2 similar tracks this year. The win is coming for them. I don't know if it'll be Brad or if it'll be Buescher.
Agreed.
Another thing we'll talk more about later in some of our specials and props, so stay tuned for that. But, high contrast, similar to you with MTJ, very high contrast from the beginning of the year to now with me and RFK. I didn't have the faith. They have proven me dead wrong. I know I've said this before on the show, but this is the highest I've been on RFK. Yeah. All right. I guess it's my pick here. Big shocker for me. I think it's worthy of putting Alex Bowman in the B tier. Better speed ranking than I thought at these tracks. Of course, he missed a couple of races with injury. Didn't miss either of these races. 8th in the series in total speed ranking. Phoenix and Richmond have not been his best tracks historically over the last few years. Of course, he's had the Richmond win and a really good run at Phoenix, subbing for Dale Jr. back in 2016. But normally not a strong suit for Bowman. But this year is sort of an aberration for Alex Bowman. The one thing we'd always looked for was consistency. It was sort of the same with Byron, and he's perhaps the best, most consistent driver in the series this year. So with Bowman, I kind of have the hope that he'll kind of be the same way. He's sort of refreshed. He's taken his focus away from the sprint car stuff after the injury. The team's run well. I think he's almost a little undervalued. 8,600 is a good price, but he's undervalued in some other facets that we'll discuss later as well.
Yeah, don't mind Bowman at all. Always kind of hard to get behind a guy who's just coming back from injury, but he proved very well last week.
We didn't think Chase Elliott, I couldn't find the word I was looking for there. We didn't think Chase Elliott would run quite as well. We thought he would struggle a little more coming back in the 9, and that didn't really happen.
Agreed. I'm going to go with Ross Chastain to round out the B tier. If we want to throw someone else up there, we can. This is a guy, top 8 speed ranking at this track last season, top 8 finish as well. He's just been very consistent so far this season. I really like what he can do here at these shorter flats. We've seen it at Richmond. We've seen it at Phoenix. He's competitive. I don't think he's a top 5 car by any means. I think he's probably a 10th to 12th place car. But at the price tag, 9,600, I'm okay with the number 1 car.
Yeah, the one right at the end of Tier B is pretty good for me. To start off Tier C, I'll put Tyler Reddick in the 45 in there. It's slightly overvalued at 9,200, but in the 45, not the 8. We'll get to Kyle Busch a little later. But Tyler Reddick in the 45 car, 9,200 on DraftKings. The speed ranking is only 13th, which is still fairly decent, but 23-11's hot streak. He's definitely a tempting play for me.
I'm going to go with the man of the day, Corey LaJoie, here at the number 9 car. He's at 7,400, but this is a guy who is already, you're paying $6,000 for him about every single week in DraftKings, and he's been averaging over 30 DraftKings points. And here's what I think you can get behind this week, Elliot. And I haven't laid a bet on him because I don't think the odds are going to shrink anymore, that I need to get on him before practice and qualifying. But at these 2 tracks that we were comping this week, Phoenix, Josh Berry ran the 9 car, top 10 car. Richmond, Josh Berry ran the 9 car, 2nd overall car. Had a little bit of luck on a pit stop as well, but still top 10 car nonetheless on both of those tracks. So I think Corey LaJoie at 7,400, it's going to be chalky as hell. Everyone's going to be riding Corey LaJoie, and I think that's what you need to know if you're going to be riding him as well in DraftKings this week. But I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be worth the price tag. I think he'll come from the rear. So I don't bet him yet. Like, I think the price is just going to get better over the weekend.
Yeah, this is perhaps one of the most interesting substitutions in long time recent memory in NASCAR. This guy getting his shot in really good equipment. The story that was brought up from years ago was that when the 48 was open, he wrote a handwritten personal letter to Rick Hendrick trying to get in that car. Obviously, he was never going to drive that fucking 48 car at that time. That wasn't going to happen. But he's run well enough in the Spire car. He's helped that team grow, and he deserves this shot, even though it's just a one-off for now. He deserves this shot to run the 9. I'm pulling for him, but I don't think he's going to run very well, so I'm staying away from him. So if you wouldn't mind throwing the 45 in Tier C, I talked about Tyler Reddick in the 45. Yep. So I will go. It's all good. I was going to throw Kyle Busch up in Tier C anyway. Perfect. Another guy who is going to run well, slightly overvalued at 9,800. The speed ranking is only 15th at these tracks. It's been sort of an up and down year for KFB at RCR. They're still not as good as what JGR had for them. They're not as quite as good as what KFB has been running. But last year at Worldwide Technology, Gateway, whatever, I believe he was the fastest in total speed ranking in the 18 car. This isn't the 18 car. This isn't the Gibbs car. But I've got faith in KFB. And sort of, he's had 2 wins this year. Every time he goes quiet for a couple of weeks, he ends up pulling out a really, really good run. So this could be the week for that.
Okay. Yeah, I mess with it, man. I mess with it. I'm going to get a little weird here. There's 2 I want to throw out here. First one is Eric Almirola in the number 10 car. You're getting a little bit of a value on him this week at 7,200. Almirola, man, he worked his way up. He was fighting. He was in 30th last week. He continued to get better and better throughout the race. I was really encouraged by what I saw, and he's just one of those short flat guys. This is one of his tracks. He was a top 5 car here last year at the end of the checkered flag, and he was also a top 5 car most of the day, and it was not fool's gold. So I like Eric Almirola. He's not leverage. He's chalk. He is chalk this week 100%, but I don't mind playing it. I am going to go with a bit of a leverage play as well here. I'm going to go with Ryan Preece, man. Ryan Preece is another guy better than you think at a lot of these tracks. He's coming in here at DraftKings just at 6,800. And when you look at the short flats so far this season, 14th best speed at Richmond. He was very fast at Richmond. And Phoenix, he was also a top 12 finishing car. So I like what Ryan Preece has been doing. Hard to invest a ton in him, but I will have a little Ryan Preece as a nice leverage play. No one's playing him this week, Elliot. So a couple of my weird SHR. I liked him last week. I still like him a little bit here this week as well. At least 2 of the 3, or at least 3 of the 4.
Well, I will bring up the caboose of the SHR train with my next pick with Chase Briscoe. Not necessarily because he's run super well this year, obviously. He does have a decent speed ranking at these tracks this year, 11th on the board. But he's up here, and this is a point I'll make later as well, because with the perhaps one of the heaviest penalties handed down in NASCAR, because SHR and the 14 team counterfeited a single supplier use part, he lost, I think it was 250 points. He lost a whole shit ton of playoff points. This team is 100% in a we have to win to make it in. Even if they were running as well as the Hendrick guys have been running, for example, they still would probably have to win to get in. and they are going to start taking those shots, I believe. You've got a substitute crew chief in for the next 6 races. Who knows if that will help? I think it's Mike Brugarevich, who has experience on that 14 car, experience with SHR, subbing in as crew chief there. They're going to go balls to the wall. I don't know if this is going to be the week with the speed ranking. Tracks like this seem to be the best shot for SHR. Again, they're going to go balls to the wall. They got to go crazy. They got to try some stuff. They got to hope they don't get another penalty from NASCAR when they try it, first of all. But we know Briscoe's a talented guy. He's won in the Cup Series before. He's been a playoff driver. The talent's there. They're waiting to see a little more of it, and perhaps taking the shackles off, knowing, hey, good point stays don't matter anymore. We got to go out there and win. Could be a big thing for the 14. But also, we've seen races where we thought he'll run well, and he's running back there with the likes of BJ McLeod a lap down early in the race. So,
well, I think what's so frustrating about this is this was a week to play Chase Briscoe. I had him locked into my DFS lineups when prices first came out early in the week because I liked him coming into this. He's great at Phoenix. He's great at these shorter flats. He actually was on the pole, led 28 laps last year at this track. So there is a lot to like about Briscoe, but with the penalty that just came out and like really just the talk of the shop right now, you got to follow the talk of the shop sometimes here in racing. And this is one of those, like, it's bad juju. And I just can't play them in. I think maybe in one of my lineups I'll have him, but like it is so hard to get behind him. I'm going to go ahead and dip down in this next tier, Elliot, if that's okay with you. Like, I think there is a drop off now to me.
I think so. There's maybe a few C's, but I'll let you bring up this guy and then we'll do some organizing here.
Yeah. I'm going to go with AJ Allmendinger. This is a weird one, but he was a top 10 car here last year. Didn't have top 10 speed at all, more of a top 20 car. But I don't mind Dinger this week. If you need a leverage play down at 6,100, I think Dinger can provide that for you. Also, I think that he needs to be discussed as well is Daniel Suarez. He was
one of the guys I was thinking about for C, but I'm okay with C- or D, whatever you're thinking.
The issue is he's steady Eddie at these tracks. He's probably going to finish somewhere between 15th and 22nd, and you're not going to get burned by him, but you're not going to win your week because of him. And I think the issue that it comes down to me, it's the price tag, Elliot, 8,000 on DraftKings. Fan tracks, I think he's also still priced pretty heavily as well. So it's hard for me to get behind him. What do you like about him this week, though?
Well, that's sort of the thing is I don't know that I really like a lot about Suarez. I just think that he's worth putting up in C because I like the fact steady Eddie, he's kind of in the middle. Trackhouse cars are good. He's got the chance to run a little better. But at the end of the day, it's interesting that Suarez, week after week after week, he's just kind of around. We never really make him a priority pick. He always ends up in the C's or D's. Sometimes he sits on the board longer than even the Spire cars. It's just interesting. Suarez is another one of those guys that, he got the first win off his back. He's just a very interesting piece that is just not that interesting right now, to be honest. If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I'm totally with you, man. And he was hot at the beginning of the season. He's really, really cooled off since then. So I'm with you there. We do need a little housekeeping though, because we do have some good names left on the board. What do we do with the 54, the 47?
You were reading my mind because those are the two I was going to put on the board next. Ty Gibbs, one of those situations in the 54. The speed ranking's not as good as I would like it. 18th, a little better than some of the drivers we already have on the board, and maybe a bit better than I expected. He's been running a little better lately, and he's one of those guys that just deserves to be on the board because JGR is going to run well enough. Some of that's going to go through osmosis at the 54. And with Stenhouse, you really can't talk about this. Is probably his most consistent season in Cup in the 47. He got the 500 win off his back, and that team has gone out and put out better runs than I've thought. Still at a relatively cheap price at 6,400. Speed ranking not quite where we want it to be, but when you get down to this level, those sort of stats almost go out the window in a sense. The recent performance really, really weighs on it, and I think Stenhouse, I'm fine with him as a D, but he's definitely worthy of being put on the board in that 47.
Yeah, Stenhouse, man, he's been mixing it up. He continues to mix it up here. 6,400 for him. He's averaging over 34 DraftKings points per game. So, yeah, I don't mind Stenhouse here at all. We'll throw him in the D's there. I'm going to take a couple out here, if that's okay with you, Elliot, here to get a couple of the D's. Yeah, first one, man, it's going to be weird. It's weird saying it. I don't like him as a driver. I don't know if I like him as a person yet. He's a young buck, but it's Carson Hocevar, man. The kid's a talented driver. I think if we have to say anything, he's a talented driver. He's only ran 3 Xfinity races, and I think like that's
I believe he's been top 10 in all 3 of them, though. I'll wait for the rest of my thoughts.
Two top tens for him, and
Oh,
one that he was running top 10 had some issues in it looks like.
gotcha.
But like that stat alone, it makes you encouraged. You know what I mean? He's in Corey LaJoie's car, which has been pretty decent so far this season. And at 5,400, you can do worse than Carson Hocevar, I think. So especially over there on Fantrax, he's coming in bottom of the basement, $5. I'm playing him there because I need relief to get other people in my lineup. So Fantrax, especially, I'm playing Hocevar, a little less in DraftKings, but still interested as well. And I'm going to go with Harrison Burton. We shouted him out last week. We wrote him out last week. The kid is learning. The kid is getting better. We saw it last week, man. He was up to 12 before he got taken out there. I was watching him like a hawk. We had the 18-1 top 10 bet on him, Elliot. It was, you know, I was so happy to see him finally doing good after having a pretty mediocre day all race long. And he's averaging right now 21 DraftKings points. For what you're getting at 5,300, I think you can do worse than Harrison Burton. It was about a 25th place car last year here.
Yeah, Burton is definitely intriguing to watch. I think Hocevar will be very intriguing too. The domino effect from the Chase suspension means that a talented, but sometimes, head off of his shoulders driver, so to speak, is going to be making his Cup debut. The talent's there. I think he's going to be in a good Xfinity ride next year. Maybe even if Josh Berry slides up, some of the openings created from that. You never know if Hocevar finds himself on one of those rides if the money works out right. But Hocevar, talented guy in the trucks, finally got his first win off his back this season. And, I think that he's going to run pretty calm in this race. I don't know that the car is going to be that good. Wouldn't surprise me if he kind of sits around 25th to 30th. You never know. Maybe he turns some heads. Maybe he puts out one of those good runs like we've seen from LaJoie, random top 20s at places like Dover.
Yeah.
You can very easily see that from the 7 car, but one of those sort of, you never quite know with a guy, especially in his Cup debut.
Yeah, absolutely here. Also, I want to throw out Justin Haley as well, but before I throw it back to you, guy's just super consistent, averaging just about 29 DraftKings points per game. And last week, even he had a top 10 run going for a minute. Like dude's just in there. I do like AJ a little bit more this week, but for the equipment and what it looks like they're playing with, I do like Justin Haley a little bit this week as well. I'll continue to roll him out if I need some relief. I wish over on Fantrax though they would lower his damn price. It's too much for me over there. Elliot, who else do you like for D here before we throw out the Fs?
So I think I will switch to F just because this is a good transition here. I don't know how much you know your history on Justin Haley, but did you know when he was younger he went by JJ Haley?
No,
he went by
really.
JJ Haley, but doesn't that sound a lot like a certain other Cup driver?
Yes, sir.
JJ Haley.
Yes, sir.
Normally with the Rick Ware cars, I am always, every week, these cars are bad. I barely want to play them at Daytona and Talladega. But just in the Fs this week, he's still an F, but I'm going to put him on the board this week. The 51 car, a JJ Yaley.
Shout out.
He was in the number 15 at the Coke 600, and JJ Yaley ends up with a 16th place finish in a Rick Ware Racing shipbox. So he is worthy of being on the board.
Thank you.
Just because of that performance alone. It's an RFK week of love, and it's also a RWR week of love.
Yeah, man. Honestly, he has been driving.
Yeah,
he's been driving the balls off these Rick Ware rate. Like this is one of the best seasons for JJ Yaley in what 10 years. Like honest to God, the guy's been laying some laps down there. Like I was picking between him and Carson Hocevar on Fantrax today, and it was a real debate I had back and forth in my mind. I ended up going with Carson. But yeah, I don't mind the play at all there. I like the shout out there. We got to give a shout out. I think Eric Jones, we know the equipment's bad. We've bashed on Legacy all night here. However, Elliot, this is still a guy who finished top 10 in this race last season. I don't think that's something we can look over too much. Fantrax too much, not paying for him there. I will pay for him $6,300 though on DraftKings.
Yeah, I mean, with Legacy, it's just difficult. Again, Jones is talented. Gregson's talented. We just haven't seen it. Gregson's a guy who I don't even know if I want on the board this week. And I'm looking at the two Austins also, Cindric and Dillon. And I don't really know if they're even worth betting. They're both in the mid-20s in the speed ranking. The upside from these guys is rare. It does happen maybe every 7th or 8th race. You're like, hey, look at one of these guys. They had a good run. But it's just tough. I mean, if we want to put them on the board, I'm putting them in the F. I'm just not expecting much out of either of the two Austins.
And it's sad, too, because Austin Cindric actually had a pretty good car here last year. very, very fast at times, but I don't expect him to do much. And Austin Dillon, 15th place finish. So not a lot to love there. We can throw McDowell in the F tier, but the guy has been dog shit the last. He's trying to do too much. He's trying to do too much in this car, and it's not, going his way. I think he's been like, I saw the average, but last 6 races is like 25 plus for McDowell. He's been terrible. Todd Gilliland, man, what do we do with Todd Gilliland? Because Zane Smith drove this thing to a top 10. We've seen Todd Gilliland. We bet on the top 10 this season. It's paid off. Where does he fall in for you?
I mean, I'm okay with leaving him off the board. The 38 was only top 10 last week because of pit strategy, if I remember correctly. They kept him out, or they did 2 tires or something, and he just was able to still wheel at the 10th somehow. That wasn't because that was a great car.
He was 22nd here last year. I'm giving him a little bit of love.
That's worth even half car, I'm sure.
I'm giving him a little bit of a love. Yeah, take us home with the rest of these guys, though. I agree. No Gragson for me.
Yeah, Gragson, rookie slump, legacy sucks. Greg Galding is in the 15 this week. Nice.
Welcome back, Gray. Welcome back, Gray. Let's go.
He's got full sponsorship from Panini, the trading cards. They've stuck with him for a while. Remember, he almost won an Xfinity race at Dega, I think, in the Panini number 08 or something. But
good for Gray, bro.
It'll be a nicer looking car on the track than it normally is, but that's about it. And then, of course, you got the number 35 and 36 every single week for us here, Ty Dillon and BJ McLeod. That's not going to change. So
BJ's been decent, like at times, like better than Ty Dillon. If you said gun to the head, you got to pull someone. It's McLeod.
Yeah, if you're getting to the tail end of the draft on the playground here, and if you got to pick one of them, it's back and forth every week. But
all I'm gonna say, no shade or anything, because I'm not the most beautiful human being out there either. But can the NASCAR give the guy a better driver sketch? He looks so shady in it. He looks so shady, like the guy that you tell your daughter at the grocery store to stay away from.
BJ's got kind of that badass sort of attitude. He's a tried and true racer. I feel bad giving him shit because he's doing it the old fashioned way. In a time when doing it the old-fashioned way is damn near impossible.
Well, that's what I mean. I like BJ. So, NASCAR could do him a solid. Make him look cooler. I don't know. Give him a skull cap or something.
I'm sure what'll make him look cooler is when we get away from Fox in a couple of weeks and we go to the NBC broadcast where they take it seriously and they don't.
How about it?
They don't put cartoons on the board for every driver. But, hey, we're splitting hairs there. Let's move on and take a look at the parking garage props for the week. A little more legwork for me than usual. It was kind of fun really digging into the books. Usually I leave most of that to you and Rod, and I get involved in the specials here. I'll let you give some impressions on the books, and then I'll go with some of my notes as sort of the newbie, so to speak.
Yeah, honestly, these were my least favorite offerings of the year. Not in terms, I did think there were some values out there, but in terms of variety, it just kind of lacked juice. Kind of like last week, we kind of got spoiled by some fun bets. Not so much this week. A lot of the drivers that I did find an edge for that we just talked about in tire tiers, I can't find them for anything I really want. There's not really a lot of matchups with guys like Ryan Preece and Almirola that I would be interested in. So I'm going to be playing a lot of DFS this week, honestly. We've been up the last couple weeks. We've come in the green. So this is one of those weeks. I'm tightening up a little bit. It's getting a little bit looser. I'm tightening up, and I'm okay with that, man. There's not a ton of track history to go off of. Not a lot of new unique offerings for me either. So a little bit give or take for me this week, Elliot.
Yeah, I'm certainly a little bit looser in terms of stuff I find intriguing. Whether or not I actually put a good deal of money on these is another story. But, hey, you do what you got to do some weeks to get content also. Chevy were the heavy favorites, like I said. I think that the books are too high on Larson and Byron.
Agreed.
They're both going to run well there. Go ahead, Seth.
Well, I mean, it's hard to bet Larson a lot of times, and this is why we like to bet him earlier in the season. We got it on him at Martinsville. We got on him at Richmond, I believe, as well. Mm-hmm. And both times he's won, whenever that was. And it was because the numbers were decent. You know what I mean? And now we're getting to the point where it's hard to bet him again. Sorry about that.
Yeah. No, you're all right. Thanks for sharing your opinion there. But yeah, Larson, Byron, of course they're good. Of course they're going to run up front. It's just, it's not worth it at this number. And, LaJoie in the 9 car, everybody's excited. Everybody's talking about it. I'm really rooting for him. The books are way too high on this guy. I know he's in one of the best cars in the garage, but he's got the same odds to win as guys like Bubba, as guys like Keselowski, as guys like Bowman. Similar numbers with those guys for top 3s, top 5s, top 10s. He's run well. He's run over his head sometimes in the Spire car. It's just you never quite know putting these guys in top equipment. It took Chastain a while to gain consistency. It took Bowman a while to gain consistency when you're talking about guys that ran shitters for years and years and years. And it's like, hey, I'm in a good car now. What the fuck do I do now with this? So that's something with LaJoy that I think, I don't know if I think he's a smart enough guy to not overdrive the car. I think he's smart enough to take care of the equipment, put together a good day. I just don't know that it's worth being on the same plane as some of these guys that we've come to expect week in, week out to be top 10, top 15, and take this dude from a crummy car, put him in one of the best cars. I think the books are too high on him.
So here's my question, and I agree in the outright market, you can't touch Corey LaJoy this week. It would be fun. It's a fun story to get behind. But here's my question, Elliot. There's a top 10 for him on Caesars, not on Barstool or any of the other sports books that we use over here, but on Caesars, plus 125 for Corey LaJoy. So slightly in the plus money. I haven't clicked it because, again, I'm kind of waiting. Chase has been terrible at qualifying this season. Barry wasn't any better at qualifying in this car, so I think he's going to start towards the back. So I'm going to try to get that on Sunday, I think. But are you interested in that? Does that number is that because I still think it's a little bit short?
Yeah, that number absolutely not. Bump it up to what was it, plus 125? Bump it up to plus 225, plus 250, plus 275. Maybe I think about it. That's just like I said, putting him on par, even though the equipment is on par. I don't know that the driver is quite on par. We'll have to wait and see. But I guess the books don't want to risk.
Yeah.
This guy's not that great. He's in a good car. We're going to keep him closer to his Spire numbers, and then he goes out and runs fourth or something, and they have to pay out a ridiculous amount of money. So I understand it, but I still think they're too high on him.
Yeah, I'm with you there, man. Let's go ahead to the outright. Any more thoughts on impressions of the books before we move to the outrights or pole position bets?
Yeah, I'm good to move to the outrights. I'll let you get started.
Yeah, man. The one number that I really thought was sexy out there, Kevin Harvick, 14-1 right now, folks. Also plus 225 for a top 5 on Barstool. That feels a bit ludicrous to me. That feels like one they're hanging out there a little bit for us. And we already talked about him, guys. Short flat king. Caution away from hitting at Phoenix as well. 4th average speed ranking at Richmond and Phoenix are 2 comp tracks for tonight. Finish at Richmond as a top 5 car. Going back to New Hampshire of 2022, our other closest comp track, top 5 car for him. The only thing you're kind of betting against is that he wasn't a top 10 car last season here, but been so consistent overall this season. 5th in average finishes, 4th in top 5s on the circuit. Churned out the top 10 most laps run this season, so he's finishing races as well. So Kevin Harvick, to me, we haven't been on him in a couple of months now, Elliot. I almost probably going back to Phoenix, but this is the closest thing to Phoenix here, so that's why I'm riding with Kevin Harvick.
Yeah, Rod would be proud with a bit of Harvick love that we're giving on the show tonight.
Yes, sir.
So I've got a couple of long shots here in terms of the outright game. Guys I've already talked about that I think are going to run well. Brad Keselowski is plus 3,500 to win at Barstool. Of course, we're high on RFK this week, 7th total speed ranking at the short flats. One of these weeks, one of these RFK cars, whether it be Keselowski or Buescher, we'll talk a little bit more about Buescher later. But Keselowski plus 3,500 to get the W here certainly wouldn't surprise me because they're going to rip one out eventually in one of these races. Chase Briscoe has got the same odds at plus 3,500. Like I said, after the penalty, they know they're going to need to take big swings. They're going to need to take big swings, at least as big as they can within the rule book, to not get hit again. 11th in total speed ranking in the short flats. They were 14th in total speed ranking at this race last year. Again, plus 3,500 is a long shot, but let's roll with the long shots and see if maybe they can take the big swing and hit a home run.
Yeah, man. Chase, like the hard thing about Chase Briscoe is like they were cheating and they still sucked. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's
that's the crazy part. I mean, they're running a counterfeit part, and there were still weeks where he was on wear cars,
And that's the thing, and it's totally different. Like I've heard a lot of the NASCAR Twitter beef. Oh, what's the difference from Chase Briscoe and what Hendricks was? Totally different. Like this is totally different.
Yeah.
Like this is being some shady ass motherfuckers over there at SHR. I know I love SHR. We're riding them again this week, but
let's not just single out SHR either, because when you think about what these race teams do, they've got the race teams.
Yeah.
A lot of these, this is me putting on my tinfoil hat here, so take this with a grain of salt, viewers. A lot of these teams also have manufacturing companies. Brad Keselowski, prominent owner, and it's called the Keselowski Advanced Manufacturing or something.
Yeah, good point.
This could almost be a warning shot. Maybe other teams are trying this too. The parts, they've had the parts now for almost 2 years. They kind of know what they're doing. just saying, be careful. This may
Yeah.
not be the last time we see this penalty. All right, I'll take
Yeah.
my tinfoil hat off now.
No, I appreciate the warning shot there a little bit. I would
I don't
definitely.
have anybody that's going to happen to the 40 just with my luck this year, but all right.
I'm more interested in paying the price for Brad than I am Briscoe.
Yeah.
That's how I see
definitely
it.
love it for Brad way more than I do Briscoe, but I could not bring up the both of them.
I'm gonna pivot us back to reality here for a driver who I think can actually win this race. We've been on it for a couple of weeks now, and it's been so profitable for us. Martin Truex Jr. You're getting him 10-1 outright on Barstool, also plus 180 for a top 5. I'm gonna go about a quarter unit on the outright. I feel better on him for a top 5 than I do a full outright. But he's been on a tear. Won Dover. Next week comes out, leads 79 laps at Kansas. Dominates the next week at Darlington as well, and was a top 5 car all last week despite his pit crew struggles, man. I appreciate cashing that ticket. And last year at this track, what did he do, Elliot? Top 6 metrics across the board. That's green flag speed, that's total speed rankings, that's late in the run speed, and had led 42 laps as well. Finished fourth at New Hampshire as well, one of our other ones. The only hesitation with MTJ, the only hesitation why I think this isn't a slam dunk and why I wouldn't go a full unit on the outright. He looked like total crop at Phoenix. Looked like total crop again at Richmond. Like, he hasn't been good at the 2 comp tracks. Top 4 speed at Richmond, but fell out at the end. So that's the thing. And when Martin Truex Jr. races, and you've probably seen it, Elliot, he can go from 3rd to 16th in a matter of a second. So that's what you get. He could be a top 5 car all day like he was at Richmond, and then he's gone. But I'm going to risk it for the biscuit. He's been good to us. Been one of the best drivers in the sport last month.
Yeah, MTJ has been a little bit up and down. Definitely on and up here, and certainly hoping it continues, especially at that numbers. All right, I think we're about ready to move on to some placement props here. I'll throw out a couple of top 5s for you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's always a tough market, but there could be some steals to find here. Ross Chastain's a guy with a top 5 that I like at a number plus 225 over on Barstool. Not the best finish, not the best run, not the best total speed here last year. But in terms of the total speed ranking, he was 6th.
Yeah.
So maybe a little better in terms of how he ran than how he finished. Top 5 definitely possible here. You never know if he ends up getting in a little bit of trouble with somebody, knocking out somebody who would have maybe taken 5th place from him. And Kyle Busch here also top 5 at plus 200. He was kind of the opposite because this year he's not been that great on the short flats as we talked about. But like I said, his total speed ranking was the best of anyone when he was in that 18 last year. A couple of names to watch here with plus money for the top 5 market.
Yeah. Kyle Busch, man, I've kind of been wary of him the last couple of weeks. He's been a little bit hit or miss, but came up big last weekend, 6th, man. So I don't think you're too far off on either one of those. A couple red flags for each of them for me, but I don't mind the plays. How about introduce the next guy for me here? Elliot, he's a guy both you and I were very excited about here. And once we saw the number, we got down on it.
Yeah, both of us had the same bet here in the show sheet. Chris Buescher plus 175 for a top 10. I mean, I think this we still have some more RFK bets, so we're not quite finished with the RFK love fest yet. But Buescher, I mean, we just keep repeating the same thing. The speed ranking is good. This team is one of the hottest in the sport. They're really making strides. Buescher's a young, talented driver that really is not even in his prime yet when you think about some of the averages of some of the better drivers in NASCAR when they hit their prime and started winning the most races. Chris Buescher's got to be excited to still be a part of this project. Let's get a little more long-term than the top 10 at Gateway, but plus money for a top 10 for Buescher for a car that we're expecting to potentially do better than that if things go right.
Yeah. Honestly, you could even maybe convince me for the long shot top 5 here. 4 out of his last 5 races, he's finished in the top 10, Elliot. He's been good. He's on a hot stretch as well. He's top 12 in the points, top 12 in laps ran, and top 12 in average finish. The guy's been pretty good. He won that first stage last week as well. He showed shot out of the cannon speed. It was really cool to see that. At shorter flats this season for Chris Buescher, top 12 in average speed ranking, slightly better at Richmond. I think the one ding from him, and the question mark for Chris Buescher, if you're betting him this week, just to keep in mind, if you're playing him in DFS, same thing. He has not raced here before. Last season, he was out. Zane Smith filled in, but Zane Smith got 17th in this number 17 car, funny enough. I think Chris Buescher is worth at least 7 more spots, man. That's kind of how I see it. That was Zane Smith's Cup Series debut as well.
Very well could be. And hey, if he ran that well in his Cup Series debut, maybe some high hopes for our guy Hocevar as well, although he's not on any of our cards.
Yeah.
Stay away from him. So normally, of course, as sort of a novice, we hear a lot of guests come on. They really dig into these, the Betfred and Super Bet, some of the things maybe we don't have here in Pennsylvania to start with. Normally with Caesars and Barstool, the two big ones that I've been looking at, my first couple of weeks really transitioning from just the host, listening to your bets and throwing out some fun to now diving headfirst into the betting markets. Normally their numbers are relatively similar, but I found a disparity here that I got to take advantage of course, with the Ally purple tinted glasses on. Bowman for a top 10, which was damn near a lock at the beginning of the year. Barstool was minus 134. At Caesars, I throw a couple bucks on to plus 110. Plus money for Bowman to run top 10 just seems like taking candy from a baby. I mean, he's not always guaranteed to run there. Last week at Charlotte ended up in the mid-teens, but ran at the back half of the top 10. He had a bad pit road pick because the metric ended up throwing him in 31st because it was his first race back. Ended up behind, I think it was Bubba Wallace or somebody. He would just get blocked in with that narrow pit road, lose a couple of spots on pit road with all the restarts and stuff at the end, even with a decent long-run car. Couldn't get back into the top 10. I mean, plus money for a Hendrick top 10, a Bowman top 10, especially with his consistency. Again, it almost feels like taking candy from a baby, even if it's just a fun-sized piece of candy at plus 110.
Yeah. This is one it's so tough for me to get on these guys as soon as they get back from injury. The back issue, it seemed to hold up last week. 8th in average speed ranking at Phoenix and Richmond combined. A little bit better at Richmond there, but yeah, he's been good at these shorter flats this season, so I don't mind that bet at all, Elliot. Anything else for you in the placement props before we move on to head-to-heads?
I think I'm good for the head-to-heads and the specials.
Okay, all right, let's get into the head-to-heads. And this is one that I poured over for a long time. And the thing with the head-to-head market, I really feel like if you want an advantage this week, you got to lay some juice, and that's where we're going here. Ryan Blaney, minus 137 over Tyler Reddick on Barstool. Reddick coming in at plus 106. Blaney just won. He finished 4th here last season. 2nd in total speed ranking, green flag speed, and late in a run speed. So he had really one of the best cars, Blaney, last season at this track. Reddick, on the other hand, he was a top 12 car, but finished 16th. And then just trying to put all the other data I could together, Blaney's been better on the short flat so far this season, 10th to 13th in total speed ranking. Phoenix was close, but Blaney 2nd finished, and Reddick was fast as well, kind of came out of nowhere, finished 3rd there. Richmond, Reddick was a little bit better at Richmond, but New Hampshire last season, going back to our final contract, Blaney over Reddick again. So pretty much in 4 or 5 or 5 out of the 6 metrics I weighed, it was Blaney over Tyler Reddick here. So I'll ride the hot hand with Ryan Blaney here, Elliot.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I understand taking the juice there, even though, it can be hard to do, but I totally understand it. While we're on the topic of Blaney and Reddick and also some similar odds here, one of Caesar's odds boosts they had was one of these guys to win the race, either the 45 car, the 12 car, the plus 600. And there's the same boost for one of Keselowski, Bell, or Bowman to win. You would get a plus 600. Now, these don't always hit, but it hit for me a couple of weeks ago. It was true. I think it was Truex or Byron.
Yeah.
And we had that Truex win, so I got some plus money out of that. Maybe that looks better to me because I've won one of these already this year. But these are some kind of neat odds boosts to throw out there.
They're fun. If you're in the market of not losing money, these are very fun ones. These are very fun ones to go. You can hit them occasionally. They're not going to be they are very nice paydays. They're not always crazy as hitting an outright, but they're very nice. So I'm always in tune with some of that stuff. Looks like we got our guy Rory Picks in the chat tonight. What's up, Rory? Good to see you tonight, brother. Cheers to you, man. Hope you're having a good Thursday. Appreciate you tuning in tonight, man. Rory, let us know what you're on here tonight as well. Throw out anything. We'd love to chat about that as well. Elliot, anything else here in the head-to-head group specials? Anything else that you're looking at? Because as I said, I'm kind of keeping a smaller betting card. I threw out 6 bets tonight, including my outrights, and that's really all I have. But I would love to tap into that big noggin of yours as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is my bread and butter normally, so I picked out a couple of more fun ones. The same numbers as Blaney Reddick, minus 137, plus 106. There's a matchup as well between the RFK guys. I think this is last time we matched up consistently, at least. Busher is plus 106, obviously. Keselowski, minus 137. If you believe in the young gun, Busher at plus money, not bad. If you think Brad's going to run well, outrun his teammate, you're taking a little bit of juice there, but it's not so bad at minus 137.
Okay. Yeah, that was one I came across too, and I liked both of them so much that I couldn't pick between the two. I have an issue picking between teammates though. That is something like I like some of these junk ones that we can kind of get. Either I feel like there's a difference in tiers, or I feel like there's a difference in manufacturers and teams. Looks like Rory in here in the chat. He's on Bell and KFB this weekend. Hey, I get it, man. Bell has been fast at a lot of these comp tracks as well. Just a hard one to figure out. So enjoy it, Rory. You're either gonna have a really fun weekend, or you're gonna have to pound a couple lattes to, make the pain go away here on Sunday. Elliot, what else here in the groups, head-to-heads or specials that you throw out for us?
Yeah, I don't hate either of those picks. I picked them both in the tire tiers, so glad we're on the same page there, Rory. All right, so I got a couple more manufacturer bets here, and then a couple other of those odds boosts. For the top Ford, another RFK, shocker. Keselowski's plus 850 to be the top Ford.
I saw that boost, yeah.
Buescher's plus 1400. And Briscoe, I'm not as confident in him as the RFK guys. He's plus 900 for the top Ford. When you got Harvick in the field, it's very, very difficult to take one of these because Harvick is top Ford, I'm sure, has hit far more than any of these other guys. And the Penske guys having run well, Blaney coming off a win, Logano winning here last year. I think that's why these numbers are this high. But, if I'm going to be high on RFK, I may as well just take all of the damn chips and throw them in, because who knows when the next time that it's going to be this easy to pull for Keselowski and Buescher will be.
I think this is the strategy that if you're as high as on RFK as you've been this week and as I've been, Elliot, I think you do take a sprinkle here. I think it's maybe a tenth of a unit you lay down on one of them to be the top Ford. Do I think that Harvick is the top Ford? Absolutely. And I think the books and their prices reflect that. But, something to consider as well. It looks like Rory, he likes Kez on that. So, Caesars. I think Caesars might even be giving it 400 or plus 900 over there, Elliot. Those are some really good price tags on Keselowski for a guy who ran fast here last season in lesser good equipment, I would say, if you can call it that. And then top 10 speed ranking here on these shorter flats so far this season as well. So I don't mind that one. Elliot, I know you had a fun one as well, kind of a top 10 finisher special. You still got that one around?
Yeah, and this will finish off RFK, and then I got a couple more bets after that. But last RFK bet of the night, all of Buescher in the 17, Keselowski in the 23, and Daniel Suarez in the 99 being in the top 10, plus 1,200. I think that plus 1,200 odds reflect how unlikely it is, but it's certainly not unfathomable. We know we're high on Buescher, we're high on Bubba Wallace in 2311, and Daniel Suarez, if he can break out of that 15th to 22nd slump, throw him up there in 9th place and let's cash this one in, right?
Man, if they could have even given us 8-1 on this or something like that, and thrown in Ross Chastain instead of Daniel Suarez,
if you replace the 99 and the 1 and you cut it in half and just go plus 600, that's probably more.
Yeah, I struggle with Suarez because I see him. We talked about it early. He's going to finish somewhere probably between 15th and 22. If I could bet on that, I would. If I could bet on that placement,
Suarez to finish 17th. Let's do it. Get the parlay out.
Yeah, so it's tough, but that is one that, if you want to chase a long shot fun one and you want to get the most out of your money this week, that is a fun one that I don't mind getting behind. I might add that to my card. That's one I've been pondering. So if it's still around here on Sunday, depending what I see Suarez qualify as, I'm interested in it. I'm interested in it for sure.
All right, I've got kind of a crazier one and kind of a fun group one, and I lied. There's one more RFK in this group here that I missed. I don't know how much faith I have in this one, but Ty Gibbs is the top Toyota, is plus 900. I think he's a bit underrated at that number. I know Bella's run so well here. You got Gibbs on a hot streak. 2311's on a hot streak. Again, the numbers reflect this, but if there's one thing that the viewers of this show have learned, I'm the guy that's looking for these, if this and this and this crazy shit happens, we're making a big day happen. So those probably tempt me a little too much, but sometimes they can be worth bringing up because sometimes they do hit.
Yes. I two things about this. One, Ty Gibbs has ran a lot better than his finishes lately. He's kind of got caught up in some stuff, and I think that's just the nature of some of these races he's been into. With that said as well, I can't bet against Martin Truex Jr. this week. There's too much of a heater sometimes going on. And Martin Truex Jr., man, I don't know if he's taking the 5-hour energy or some of those new weight loss pills going around, but the dude is looking jacked.
Truex has got a new woman on his arm too, if you caught that.
Yeah. I don't know who she is, but she looked like Danica. Made me do a double take. So dude's on a heater right now. Shout out Truex on the new lady. Shout out Truex. Hopefully we cash a ticket on you this weekend as well, buddy. I'm pulling for that number 19. So no Ty Gibbs, but Elliot, I know we have different strategies here. I don't like to lose money. You like to make big money. There's a difference.
Wait, and keep in mind, sometimes I throw out the crazy bets because I see a bet on a driver that I want to bring up. With Ty Gibbs, it's almost this is a chance to applaud how well he's done, how much he's improved, while also showing a number that says, hey, he's got a long way to go. But if he has one of his better weeks, you could make some funds off of it. So
yeah, Ty Gibbs
I'm
needs
not
to get a good
my whole bankroll on these crazy bets I throw out there. They're just fun to throw out, talk about some guys that are different than, a Truex outright or a KFB top 5 or 10, which we look at more often.
Yeah, Ty Gibbs needs to get himself a little shorty on his arm. You know what I mean? I think I think that would help the confidence a little bit. He's going out there with, dudes who got, really, long list of track records, really good looking women on their arm. He's up against it. So hopefully that helps him though a little bit. So bring us home here, Elliot. What do you got? Round us out.
Yeah, we'll round us out with a neat little group bet here. You got the 23 of Bubba Wallace, the 48 of Alex Bowman, the 6 of Brad Keselowski, and the 14 of Chase Briscoe, all with the same odds at plus 240. I mean, the way I've been talking, Keselowski's the move here. I don't hate going Bubba here. I don't love going Bowman here. It is possible. And hey, with the 14, I've been talking about taking those swings, hitting those bombs. You never know. This is a fun one. I think even odds is definitely makes it interesting.
Read that one more time. And what sportsbook was that?
Caesars Group E. They're all at plus 240 to top of the group. You got the 23 of Bubba Wallace, 48 of Alex Bowman, the 6 of Brad Keselowski, and the 14 of Chase Briscoe.
It's Bubba. It's Bubba or Keselowski for me in that, but it's tough to decide which. But yeah, I sometimes like those ones that they're just going to offer you even money across the board like that. You can kind of pick your poison. But
nice little race within the race with those guys.
Anytime I can fade Briscoe, right now, I'll go ahead and do it. So, Elliot, I love that you came to the table, man, locked and loaded with some different gambling options for everyone tonight. Appreciate everyone out there in the crowd. If you guys are new to the channel, give us a like on this video, subscribe, come back and hang out with us again. Definitely appreciate everyone's support. Elliot, any final words, man?
No, it should just be a fun one here. I'll leave the door open for you before we close it out.
Yeah, no, just want to shout out everyone in the chat tonight, man. DD, Rory, appreciate you guys. We'll be back here next week. Continue to be plugged into the In-Between Media site. We got a lot of cool content coming for you. And continue to be plugged in over here on the YouTube as well. Hopefully next week, the books give us a little bit better odds and earlier in the week. But until then, guys, we're going to keep it in between as hell over here. Thank you.